Today, I'm changing up the format a little. Instead of telling a story of my own history, I have a legend to tell. In a time long since forgotten, two small islands coexisted in harmony. Bien, known for its rolling hills, and Calo, an atoll of pristine lakes. The Isle of Bien had been slowly drifting towards its sister island, and so the two tribes strived to unite just as their land was. One day, a small satellite appeared above the sky of Calo, whom the locals took as a sign of the gods blessing them. Those of Bien took great offense, saying they were both blessed. The unity that was to be their combined world instead became that of turmoil, what had been promised vanishing in an instant. Thinking that their blessings would become evident if they made it to the mysterious land above, both peoples plotted to somehow make it up there. As the war raged, they made it to the surface and discovered the secret this little planet held, the Time Stones. Learning that these gems were able to control time itself, the warring tribes' desires became dark. Seeking to slip into the past, they thought the best way to win was to stop the war from happening at all, erasing their enemies. When the stones made it to Earth and were used, the battle of 1,000 years happened in but 3 seconds. The two civilizations thrived, died, and blinked into almost nothing. With only the faintest hint that anyone once lived upon the land, the gods took back the Time Stones, making sure they were safe. As Bien finally merged with Calo, the Never Lake shimmered as the little planet disappeared back into the mysterious space it came from. The names of the two tribes faded, and those who would later settle the whole of the isle would rename its rolling hills. Sensing in the air that something else once thrived there, the whispers of a forgotten past and a destined future inspired them to call their home Mirage Island. This tale was written by David the Lurker of Sonic Retro, who received the approval of Aaron Weber, making it semi-canon. Now, what exactly is this Mirage Island? Well, it's the main setting of Sonic 4, of course. Most people write Sonic 4 off as some failed Sonic game that never lived up to its potential. And while that's true to a degree, I think it's worth giving Sonic 4 a fair shot. Sonic 4 Episode 1 has some severe graphical problems that strangely enough only apply to the notable characters and animals, while Sonic 4 Episode 2 is a beautiful game that suffers from some janky dimps level design. If you've played one of the portable platformers like the Advance or Rush games, you'll know what I mean. But it has plenty of merits. While the gameplay can be stiff, it's very consistent and easy to execute quick movements. Episode 2's addition of Tails helps to spice up the gameplay, making boss fights and level traversal extremely fun. But I didn't tell you the story of the Bien and the Calo just to talk about the gameplay. No, I'm going to talk about a specific element of Sonic 4 that often gets undersold by the community: the narrative present within its story. Specifically, Sonic 4 uses narrative techniques familiar to the classic games to tell a more vague and indirect story that has plenty to unpack. Through careful observation and analysis, I believe I've managed to unpack something quite interesting: the secret story of Sonic the Hedgehog 4. Interested? Then sit back and let me tell you a timeless tale. Sonic 4 Episode 1 doesn't begin with any flashy intro cinematic or even a text-based cutscene akin to Dimps' DS entries. It simply drops the player right into the action, sending them straight to Splash Hill Zone. There's not much to glean from Splash Hill. Checkerboard pattern ground, badniks are around, Eggman's kidnapping animals again, same old same old. It introduces the player to a sense of familiarity and lowers their expectations. Just a normal Sonic adventure, right? Casino Street Zone is much the same, except for a small detail present on the game's website. Casino Street Zone is not just a random casino level, it's a bustling city that exists on Mirage Island. This place is lived in, there's active civilization here. While the level itself doesn't show active housing, a peek into the background gives a look at what's actually going on. And yet, as far as the unobservant player is concerned, it's just another casino level. Nothing particularly new here, same old same old. At this point, it's starting to feel uncannily familiar. And then Lost Labyrinth comes along, and things are quite different. Lost Labyrinth is obviously based on Labyrinth Zone from Sonic 1, right? But compare this to this. The difference in visuals is staggering when you consider the background. This place is massive in comparison to Labyrinth Zone, filled with ancient ruins and more complex booby traps. While Labyrinth Zone was definitely dangerous, Lost Labyrinth truly feels like an ancient dungeon no one is meant to survive in unprepared. And yet there's clearly been exploration down here. Bombs are wired up for detonation upon a lit fuse, and fully functioning minecart tracks litter the zone. Well, functioning until a boulder trap destroys them. But considering the imagery used in the minecart bumpers and the overwhelming badnik presence, it's clear that most of the exploration is being done by Eggman, a direct contrast to Labyrinth Zone, where it's pretty clear the Doctor wants to get out of this place as much as Sonic does. Eggman began his latest research in the remains of this labyrinth, the official website tells us. Something about Lost Labyrinth is different. Something has led Eggman to truly explore the ancient ruins, build functioning travel systems, and deploy robots not dedicated to mining in order to protect whatever may lay down here. That just begs the question, what is Eggman looking for within Lost Labyrinth? A question for another time, I'm sure. Now we turn to the most important location in all of Episode 1. Mad Gear Zone. Aside from this level being legitimately incredibly fun and a test of everything the player has learned up to this point, the zone establishes one theme above all else. This is a factory, and an absolutely massive one at that. Gears, conveyor belts, pistons, and open steam vents litter the facility, and there's so many moving parts that are constantly in motion. Mad Gear Zone is massive, and all its parts are doing something. So why does Eggman need a facility like this? What is this all for? According to the website, Mad Gear is a huge plant constructed by Eggman to turn his maniacal ambitions into reality. What titanic ambitions is Eggman playing at this time? Ah well, doesn't matter. Smash up the plant and oh god, get out of there! With Mad Gear destroyed, the Doctor is forced to flee back to Splash Hill Zone, bringing the player full circle, literally. As Eggman flees to his final fortress, Sonic is in hot pursuit with a rocket left by Tails. I guess they kind of expected Eggman to have a space base at this point. The Earth is visible in the distance as Eggman throws everything he has at Sonic, bringing out every boss so far for a rematch that the Hedgehog quickly dispatches. Finally, at the heart of the Egg Station, he breaks out the final weapon, the Death Egg Robot. While the usage of this machine might seem a bit too self-indulgent now, considering the effective oversaturation of the machine in the 2010s, Sonic Generations, Sonic Mania, Sonic Forces, but Sonic 4 Episode 1 released before all those games. In truth, this was the first appearance of the Death Egg Robot since Sonic 2, making Eggman breaking out this robot a pretty big deal. Regardless, despite pulling out all the stops with the former final defender of his ultimate weapon, Eggman fails to stop Sonic regardless. As Sonic returns to Splash Hill and celebrates a victory well earned with his animal buddies, I ask you to think about how many loose threads were left open. Why did Eggman focus so much on Lost Labyrinth, setting up a minecart system and trying to defend the ruins? Why was Mad Gear such a massive, resource-consuming factory before its destruction? What was the purpose of Egg Station, and why did it carry the Death Egg Robot of all machines? Is this really the end, or just the beginning? I mean, I think everyone here knows that Episode 2 exists, so... Though he went unseen during Episode 1 proper, Tails was present during the story of Episode 1, helping Sonic from the sidelines, notably with the rocket he used to reach Egg Station. With Eggman still on the loose and no sign of the badnik horde stemming, Sonic and Tails head back into action. Taking flight of the tornado from Splash Hill, they head to the east side of Mirage Island, landing in Sylvania Castle Zone. But what's that littered around? Strange flowers of various colors, prominently standing across the zone. They seem almost out of place against the ancient castle backdrop and the various devices used to maintain the locale. And yet, they fit in just fine. Something about them is strange, however. Something almost familiar. That sense of nostalgia from before is now tangible, physical. This doesn't just feel familiar in the abstract. There's the sense that this isn't the first time Sonic has been to this place. But why is that? Surely, such a large ancient castle landscape would be remembered fondly if this truly was a familiar locale. Like Lost Labyrinth before, it's almost like an ancient civilization once lived here, now uninhabited and overtaken by the beauty of nature, but still standing strong as a testament to what came before. The pristine lakes and the large fortress structures built through it hint at a greater story. But there's no time to dwell on that. The sun drops and night comes as Sonic and Tails storm White Park Zone, a thriving amusement park full of new gimmicks, new locales, new enemies, new! The familiarity is dashed away by the bouncing heart of Mirage Island civilization, Sonic and Tails storming their way through the ice and onto the pathways. Save for the reappearance of those strange flowers, all thought of the mystery hammering at the side of the player's mind is put to the side for what is simply a fun level, making it through all 3 acts and preparing for the boss encounter. Dashing across that long wooden high-rise pathway, getting ready for the next big Eggman fight. And then you see it. That's Little Planet. In that instant, the pieces come together. The flowers teasing your memory, the egg station's critical role in the Doctor's latest scheme, the usage of the Death Egg robot to defend it, the massive factory of Mad Gear Zone on a scale unlike anything the Doctor's ever built before for a simple production factory, even the focus on exploring Lost Labyrinth and Sylvania Castle for whatever information and treasures they could hold. Mirage Island is the location of Never Lake, the place where Little Planet returns. Eggman's making another bid to control the planetoid, and it's clear as day to see his metallic shell reaching around the planetoid to take hold of it once more. Then it hits you. If Eggman is already tapping into Little Planet, could that mean, and the moment he enters your mind, he's back? How long has it been? Months? Years? Waiting for your father to come back, lift you up and tell you that you were worth creating. You were the first. Before any mecha, there was metal, and you did your job. You kidnapped the girl. You raced the boy. You lost. Is that why you've been alone for so long? Dr. Eggman has begun his scheme, the egg station ferrying the first round of resources up to the returning planetoid. As the monitor scours around on Eggman's behalf, searching for anything usable, it comes across you. Finally, you have use again. He powers you up and sends you back home. A new facility surrounds you. The Mad Gear Zone, built to power a titanic effort. It repowers you, and the Doctor gives you a test to ensure you have returned to your peak. He is assured, and you are sent on your way to the heart of the Lost Labyrinth below. Inside, a strange artifact. This is what Eggman is looking for, isn't it? What is this thing? Dangerous. Running wild with power, there is a single thought in your mind. Hedgehog, priority 1. Casino Street is a blur as the metallic doppelganger blasts past with one thought present. Sonic, Sonic, Sonic. It doesn't matter what stands in your path, what you have to do. All that matters now is reaching the blue hedgehog, and you're too late. Sonic has already departed for Egg Station, taking the facility down. You are left to stand there in a field of critters saved by the real Sonic with nothing but his discarded technology as Sonic and Tails head back into action. He's there, right there, just out of reach, with no idea you even still exist. Your purpose is right there, and it makes you angry. He will not escape again. Metal Sonic defeated, Sonic and Tails dash ahead to their next goal, the biggest refinery Eggman has ever made. Welcome to Oil Desert. Act 1 displays exactly what you'd expect from Aaron Sands in the polluting factory. Upon entering Act 2, however, the true scale of what Sonic and Tails have uncovered is made clear. The entirety of Act 1 was a single one of the giant extractors now visible throughout the background. Eggman has hundreds of drilling rigs hooked up to the island, extracting every ounce of highly explosive oil that he possibly can. What could he even need all this for? The answer seems clear as soon as you think of it. Whatever he's doing with Little Planet. And if he needs all of these facilities for his plan, then the next course of action is clear. Smoke it all. Act 3 begins as Sonic and Tails finish obliterating hundreds of drilling rigs within a single afternoon. A furious Eggman has begun to use the collapsing oil field as a weapon against the pair, flooding his own broken drilling rigs with sand in a desperate attempt to smother Sonic and Tails in the grains. When that fails, he breaks out a machine that cobbles together the broken scrap and waste into a magnetized armor of titanic proportions, raining great pain down on the duo. But it's not enough, leaving the entire base in burning rubble as Eggman soars off and the duo makes hot pursuit in the tornado. In the skies, Eggman escapes as the tornado is intercepted once again by Metal Sonic, now flying the metal carrier. With the titanic Sky Fortress in the distance, it's up to Sonic and Tails to make it through the worst level in the game. Why is Dimps allowed to design levels? Make it through a barrage of missile fire, badniks, and floating metal structures in order to finally reach the Sky Fortress, taking down Metal's smaller ship in the process before preparing to do the same to the big one. With the Sky Fortress heavily damaged in Acts 2 and 3, Metal Sonic gathers the full force of the metal carrier for one final fight. The tornado takes the opposing ship out of the sky before returning to the sinking Sky Fortress, just in time to catch Eggman escaping. While the pair failed to stop him from taking his escape pod, they managed to find a second left in reserve to trail him directly to his final objective. The culmination of this entire scheme lies in the skies above them. Little Planet, imprisoned within the Death Egg Mark II. Mad Gear, the factory producing the raw materials needed for the construction of such a titanic fortress. Egg Station, the spacebound observation facility used to make first contact. Oil Desert, the massive fuel depot siphoning power for the astronomical base. Sky Fortress, the main transport of resources to the base. All have been destroyed by Sonic the Hedgehog, leaving only the titanic metal shell before him. With every needed resource to keep the facility operational taken out, Eggman has turned the forces of the Death Egg Mark II inward in a desperate attempt to destroy Sonic and Tails, preventing things from getting any worse for him. But the duo cannot be stopped by random robots, and even Metal and Eggman fighting together only slows them down. The fight is ultimately taken to the proverbial nerve center of the Space Fortress, the Egg Heart, where Sonic and Tails overcome the Doctor in a nail-biting and relentless battle, destroying the Egg Heart and putting an end to the facility. Escaping through nearby pods as the control center explodes around them, the victorious heroes drift back into space, watching peacefully as the lights all across the Death Egg Mark II drain of color, going dark, and all is quiet. But the adventure isn't over. The Death Egg Mark II is still intact, entrapping Little Planet in the skies above Mirage Island. Eggman and Metal Sonic are not yet defeated, with full access to the planetoid, not to mention the mysteries of that strange gem. The fight continues in episode 3. Wait a second, that was never made. Huh. Well, let me give my own spin on how...
Hey, it's Editing Gamma here. It's super late, so I'm gonna be a bit quiet. Just to let you know, originally I had a segment in the video here which was meant to be my take on what episode 3's story could have been, but this has also been a lot longer of a video than I expected, so I think I'm just gonna not do that. If you are interested in that though, then let me know and I might make it into its own video later down the line. So yeah, on to the conclusion.
With all this said, I think it's important to point out that this is not the definitive take on the story of Sonic 4. This is my take, done with added reading and extrapolation using all the material currently at my disposal. If you have a different interpretation of the story, that is perfectly valid. Use this video as a discussion piece, not factual evidence on what the story of Sonic 4 is. When working on this video, I stumbled across a different video made by Eldarin called How Sonic the Hedgehog 4 Killed Nostalgia. While I don't fully agree with their takes, it's a well-made video that gives a comprehensive overview of the history of Sonic 4 from a fan's perspective. But near the end of the video, they said that Sonic 4 was sealed away like an ancient evil. All things considered, I have to disagree. In October 2020, IDW's Sonic the Hedgehog number 33 was released, the first installment in Evan Stanley's Chow Races and Badnik Bases arc. That arc was set in White Park Zone, and Snowy, a badnik from Sonic 4 Episode 2, was featured quite heavily in a fight with Amy's group a few issues later. Snowy actually appeared even earlier, making an appearance in issue 14 of the same series in February 2019. The same badnik even appeared in Archie Sonic, showing up in Archie Comics' Sonic the Hedgehog number 276 in September 2015. So sure, we might not have an episode 3, but what Sonic 4 did bring to the table hasn't quickly been forgotten by the actual creatives of the era. If we ever see Casino Street, Lost Labyrinth, or Sylvania Castle in IDW Sonic, I will lose my shit in a good way. There's a lot of negativity about Sonic 4 on the internet, and a good 10 years after the second part released, I think it's about time we begin to share some positivity. Is Sonic 4 a good game? No, not really. Episode 1 is pretty lackluster in its level design and has some big graphical bugs, and Episode 2 falls into the worst pitfalls of Dimp's level design. But for some odd reason, I still like it. Maybe it's just because I spent so long with it. Regardless, I hope I can get you folks to appreciate something new about a game you may not have given a second thought before. I'm Mechanist Gamma, and I'll see you folks in the next episode. Bye!
Tell me, to undo your injuries, how many innocent lives did you consume?
I don't know. How many loaves of bread have you eaten in your lifetime?